Many of us experience trauma at an early age. And if you don't experience trauma at an early age, if you keep on living, there's a high likelihood that you will go through some sort of traumatic experience. And a lot of us never figure out throughout our whole lives how to address trauma and how to conquer trauma. A lot of us only learn how to survive with it. So we're going to talk about it. But first, wipe your feet off at the door when you step into a pimp's domain. Let's go.
Bitch, you want all this pimping you can't afford. Perform like a punk, but wanna win his reward. Some suckers give you points, but bitch, you never scored. If you ain't paying pimping, then bitch, you getting ignored.
Okay.
I'm so sick of these.
I believe trauma is just a part of life in this world that we live in as we know it. We go through things and they have a traumatic impact on our lives. And a lot of times that trauma is hard to deal with. And what ends up happening with most of us is that we get into a deep depression and it doesn't feel good. When you experience trauma and it puts you into a depression, it doesn't feel good. So naturally, when something doesn't feel good, you want a relief. You want to relieve that feeling that is not good. So what do a lot of us do? We turn to something. We turn to things that are usually, unfortunately, sensations. Now, sensations do feel good, right? So when you're experiencing trauma and you're going through a depression and you don't want to feel those feeling depression, yeah, a sensation can help you escape that quickly and easily. So a lot of the sensations that many of us turn to, of course, a lot of us turn to alcohol, a lot of us turn to weed, a lot of us turn to even harder substances, you name it, all the hard substances. But then there's some things that some of us turn to that are not so obvious, but can be just as impactful. Like food, for instance. Just like people abuse alcohol and abuse substances, some people abuse food. And food is their substance of choice to abuse. But then you have people that abuse this thing that we on right here, social media, right? And social media, I believe, has to be the worst substance that a lot of us abuse, because if alcohol is your drug of choice, then that alcohol bottle, that Hennessy, that Douce, that Casamigos, the bottle has a bottom, and once you reach the bottom of that bottle, then that instance of abusing that substance in that bottle comes to an end, and you have to go and get more alcohol. Now, you might have something that comes between you getting to that alcohol. The liquor store might be closed. You might not have transportation to the liquor store. You might not have enough money to spend in a liquor store. So for one reason or another, that can put a pause on your alcohol abuse. Same thing with weed. Same thing with, any other substance that you might be abusing. And sometimes even the same thing with food. The restaurant that you like, where you go get your food drug of choice, might be closed, or you might not be able to get to it, or, one reason or another, you can't get to the food that you like once you run out of it, right? But unlike all those other things, one thing that you will never run out of is social media, right? As long as you can do this, you can get high for as long as you can do this. Constantly getting high. The high don't stop, because social media doesn't run out. Social media doesn't close. You don't have to travel to social media. It's always available right in your pocket, or right in your hand, or right in your purse, or right on your table, wherever you are. It's always available. It doesn't close. It's 24/7. and it's always extremely easy to get to. But it's a sensation, just like all the other stuff, right? So we run to these sensations to escape the depression that is brought on to us by this trauma, right? You know, things that we go through in our childhood, things that we go through in our adult life that are traumatic, that we don't want to think about, but, you know, has gotten us into a depression, and we want to escape those thoughts. We want to escape those feelings. So we run to these substances, right? These drugs of choice. And sensation is cool. But once the sensation goes away, guess what's right there waiting for you? The trauma, the depression, those negative thoughts, those negative feelings. The moment you come out of that high, it's right there. So the sensation is cool, but the sensation isn't the best solution. There are things better than the sensation that can make you feel good. And that's fulfillment. Fulfillment makes you feel good just like sensation does. But the beautiful thing about fulfillment is that, unlike sensation, it's not as fleeting. It doesn't, evaporate like sensations do. Fulfillment is longer lasting, and it's more substantial, it's stronger. And the way that you receive fulfillment is not damaging like sensations can be when you abuse them. See, fulfillment is not something that you abuse. Fulfillment is something that you get, being involved in good things, right? Doing good things for yourself, doing good things for other people, serving a purpose greater than just yourself, serving a purpose that affects not only you, but the people that you love and care about around you. That's how you get fulfillment, right? So how do you get away from sensation and get to fulfillment? Of course, it's much easier said than done. We could easily talk about it. Hey, ABC 1, 2, 3, and you're there. But it's much easier said than done. The doing of it is not nearly as easy as the speaking of it, right? It's a process. And this is what people got to understand. And when you understand that it's a process and you respect the process, embrace the process, then that's where the change can begin. That's where the healing can begin. That's where the solution can be implemented in effect. So that trauma, it becomes the biggest thing in your mind. It becomes the dominating force in your mind. It dominates your thoughts, which dominates your behavior, right? And when those thoughts dominate your mind and your behavior, and you run to these substances for the sensation, you get to a point where you think that's all you can do is survive with the trauma instead of conquering it, addressing it, facing it. No, putting band-aids on bullet wounds is the best that you can do. You can't heal the bullet wound. Only thing you could do is put a band-aid on it. That alcohol is a band-aid on your bullet wound. That weed is a band-aid on your bullet wound. Those, powder, pills, all that stuff, band-aids on your bullet wound. That food is a band-aid on your bullet wound. This social media is a band-aid on your bullet wound. But how do you just get straight to the bullet wound and heal it? Fulfillment, right? So how you shrink the thought, the size of the thought from the trauma in your mind is by replacing it with more meaningful, fulfilling thoughts. Ambition. Man, ambition is such a powerful and beautiful thing, because ambition, in order for ambition to operate in your mind, ambition and depression, they don't go together. So the bigger you make the ambition in your mind, the smaller the depression becomes. And it kind of works like chemotherapy, to the point where you might completely unalive the depression with the ambition. But it's a process. But the more you feed your ambition with inspiration, the more you feed it, the more you get involved with it, the less room you have in your life and in your mind and in your heart or anywhere in your life for depression that comes from the trauma. This is where you turn the trauma from a weakness into a strength by conquering it. Right? How you see is how you're going to be. If you see it as a weakness, it's going to be a weakness. But if you see it as a strength, it's going to be a strength. Right? Like, for instance, I got some family members, man, who have overcome cancer. Right? Now, I can imagine, I've never had, fortunately, but I can imagine that for somebody who in the moment has cancer, it can be depressing because that's a traumatic thing to go through. But just imagine somebody who beats cancer, who rids their body of cancer and are no longer suffering from that. Can you imagine the impact that has on somebody? For those of y'all who might be watching and might have overcame cancer, I can only imagine the positive impact that had on your life, on your mind, on your heart, on your soul. You probably felt like it wasn't anything that you can't conquer after that. Like, stop eating greasy, high cholesterol, fried food. Easy. I beat cancer. I can beat that. That's easy. Stop drinking. Beat cancer. If I beat cancer, I can beat alcohol. No problem. Easy. You just probably develop this confidence that there's nothing that you can't conquer. There's nothing that you can't overcome because you overcame the worst. And since you overcame the worst, everything else, walk in the park. Right? So, if somebody can overcome some trauma like that and turn that weakness into a strength, you can do the same thing with whatever trauma that you're going through currently right now. Again, how you see is how you can be. So this is food for thought. Hopefully this is a seed that's been planted in you that you'll continue to water and nurture and grow into a powerful force in your life, to the point where you're not in bondage to this trauma anymore. You're not enslaved by this trauma anymore, by this depression anymore. You're feeding, watering, and nurturing your ambition to the point where it becomes so big that there's no room for the trauma, there's no room for the depression, and you operating on that. And then you're receiving fulfillment to make you feel good, as opposed to those sensations, right? Fulfillment by just being good and doing good, being good to others, making positive impacts on other people. You dig? But let that marinate on your mind one time. Freezes it. And this right here, yeah, this that love juice. Go ahead and put some of this good old love in your body like so. And of course, as always, long live the incomparable Sinful to P. We out.
Let's go. You see, the God anointed, game appointed PI since knee high. Knew that God appointed me to be fly. My reply to the blessing, only one decision for me, man, that integrated and demonstrated it's obligatory. Okay. So begins the story. These blessings I'm not in tune with.
But getting back to this game that I never left.
Baby, yeah, where you been?